Welcome to Idiots Talk Sports. Our show is unofficially sponsored by 5 Hour Energy, but today we don't have any because we're not sponsored. Today we're going to be discussing the Chicago Blackhawks. I'm your host, Keegan. I'm joined by Eric. We're going to be talking about the Blackhawks, their season last year, how we think they're going to do this year. But first, we just discovered something. It's a little unnerving, is all I'm going to say about it. Brett Hull's not an American.
Yeah, that blew my mind.
We're late to the party. This is obviously old news, but we had no idea. I mean, we grew up our whole lives as Americans thinking Brett Hull was just a classic, man of the country.
Well, that's what we were told.
Dude.
We were told that Brett Hull was the best, one of the best, if not the best, American-born player of all time.
Brett Hull is one of the greatest hockey players to ever live.
One of the greatest goal scorers, that's for sure.
But unfortunately, he's not American, and that changes how I feel about him a little bit.
Canadian-born.
But the subject today, so why we got on that was, I said, is Patrick Kane the best American-born player to ever play?
If Patrick Kane is not the best American-born player at the moment to ever play, it's hard to believe if he stays healthy and keeps putting up anywhere near the amount of points that he has been, that he's not going to be the best American player ever. But with that being said, there is a lot of great American players that have played the game. Pat LaFontaine, Brian Leetch, Jeremy Roenick, Mike Modano.
Yeah.
Brett Hull, not. Just kidding. But... yeah, I mean, Patrick Kane's awesome. So much fun to watch. Great player. So,
and it's one of those things that he's won 3 cups. He's a point per game player in what they call a dead puck era. I don't call it a dead puck era. I just read that. But basically, in a low scoring era, he's a point per game guy, which is, it's an accomplishment that you don't see much anymore, even from really good players in the NHL. With as many games as he's played, and the three cups can't be discounted. An MVP, all the awards. He's just an absolute animal out there, and truth be told, he's my number 1 best American of all time, and it's only because of the time he played in the NHL, like what the goaltending, how it was in the early to late 2000s.
Well, and I think recently, past maybe 3, 4, 5 years, the dead puck era thing is kind of phasing out. We're starting to see higher scoring games, more offensive minded games, which suits Patrick Kane's play style real well. So,
look, a very dynamic player, and but with that said, he can't carry the whole team. And that's what we're going to move on into today is the state of the Blackhawks. How, this last year, goaltending was the problem for the Blackhawks.
And the thing is, he shouldn't have to carry this whole team.
Right.
And like you said, goaltending was such a big issue. I think many people are aware that Corey Crawford was out for, 2/3 of the season?
Mm-hmm. Seemed like it.
Yeah, long time. I think he played 28 games, and in those 28 games, he put up great numbers.
Yeah. And he looked like Corey Crawford looks.
Right, he had .929 save percentage.
Mm-hmm. Which is very high. He won. He was 16-9. I think his win-loss was. Yeah. 2.25 goals against average. Just an extremely solid season from Corey, and he unfortunately got injured, went out. Anton Forsberg had to kind of pick things up, and never really was able to produce at the role the way he should have. And they had to call on Jeff Glass and a few other guys, and it just didn't work out.
If the Blackhawks would have got, a median of a .915 save percentage, it would have been a different season for them.
I would completely agree. They didn't miss the playoffs by much, and they had .908 goaltending. So, and with 10 and 16, Anton Forsberg would. And 4 overtime losses. Those are the intangibles you don't talk about is the shutouts, that competition, that competitiveness level is very reflective in the wins and losses and in the shutouts, I think. And a guy like Corey Crawford is more competitive, is going to pull more games out for you than a guy like those goalies do. And they shore it up maybe a little bit this year. They bring in Cam Ward. Who knows? It's an older Cam Ward, but is he better than Anton Forsberg? I think so.
I would say yes.
His competitive level, he won the Stanley Cup his rookie year.
And I'm sure he can play more games. Not that Forsberg can't play the games, but Cam Ward is more experienced.
He'll play 35, 40 games
and
for you.
Keep the mental state intact.
He's a pro.
Yes,
he's a pro.
He's a veteran.
Yeah, and he knows how to prepare himself. how to bring himself to the rink every night, and I think that's going to make a huge difference. You see a couple of key departures this year for the Blackhawks, but all of it. I mean, any move that they made, I don't think as important as getting a healthy Corey Crawford and a Cam Ward back there.
Well, and because the core of Chicago, granted they're a little bit older, but they're still intact.
Speaking of core, how about Taves and Kane?
Yeah.
I mean, these two guys. Before today, I am disappointed in myself that I've ever spoken a word on Jonathan Taves' game. I'm disappointed.
Negative word, you mean?
Negative word. I mean, I have bashed that guy for years. I'm like, well, and he's done this year. He's done. It's exactly what I've been saying. I called it like Nostradamus. No, it's not true. Look up his stats. Look up his hockey
Jonathan
reference.
Taves is an absolute beast. He's done everything.
He's solid everywhere.
He is a hockey player. You talk about how Jamie Benn is the definition of a hockey player. Jonathan Taves is the definition of a hockey player.
With way more points and a better face-off percentage.
Yeah, and he was the captain on all three of those Cup wins.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So
it's amazing to see what that guy's done, and the fact that he had a bad year last year.
And what's the other captain in today's league that has 3 cups that everyone says, oh, greatest player in the league? You know, Crosby is considered the greatest player in the league.
And it's so funny how their games are very alike.
Well, and nobody's going to compare Taves to Crosby. And Taves has done so much. Granted, he might not have the point totals, but he's still like close to a point per game player.
Yeah.
And he has 3 cups, all of which he captained. You got what he's making is worth it.
Look, he's been leaned on his entire career. He's a 20-minute guy his whole career. I mean, I think he's got like 11 seasons at 20 minutes. That's not just like, oh, they're expecting a lot out of him right now. This is like what McDavid is going to have to look like. If any player in the league came in and said, I played 20 minutes a night, won 3 cups, and was a point-per-game player,
right?
Oh, one of the greatest of all time?
Well, I don't even think he's 30. Is he 29?
I don't. They're young.
Still a lot of years left in him. I believe he's 29.
They're 33. 32, 33. Yeah. I'll look that up. Carry us for a second.
Well, and the thing is, too, and this is a trend that we noticed throughout the whole team, especially Chicago's
30.
top 6, was how low all their shooting percentages were.
Yes.
I mean,
The
Taves
confidence.
usually shoots around a 12%, and he was 2.5% below that at 9.5 this past year. So that's definitely reflective in the point totals. And like we said, the whole team.
Pat Kane had a bad statistic here. Listen, Jonathan Taves, if you look up his career shooting percentage, no, it's. Do you say 12?
I think it's like on average around a 12 or maybe a little bit higher.
But his last 2 years, he had a 10 and a 9. I think he's been a consistent 16%. 15, 14%
up until the last couple of years. Hopefully he's able to get that back.
I don't know that he's going to get all that back, but yeah, he had a bad year.
Well, and
if you can call a bad year, I mean, what, 60? How many points did he have? I mean, we're not
52. So for him, that was a low year.
But 20 goals and 32 assists.
Well, and a 59% face-off percentage.
That's the thing. He did look. If that's a bad year, you're going to be fine. It's not like he's done. He's 30 years old.
And I think people are just a little bit upset or worried with how much he's making. He's making 10.5, as is Kane. But the thing is, when those contracts were drawn up, you have to pay him for everything he's done. You got to give him that money.
As many jerseys as he's sold, he's bought that contract 3 times. I mean, as many tickets as him and Kane have sold, they've bought those contracts 10 times. So it's not. Look, I celebrate when a guy makes money. I think Jonathan Taves, in 5 years, people will say that $10.5 million for a guy like Taves, that's a discount. Player salaries are getting more and more and more. Was it a lot 2 years ago? Yes. Is Carey Price's 10.5 a lot? I would say more than Jonathan Taves' 10.5. Can Carey Price ever come back from injury and be 100%? But we're not going to talk about that today. Jonathan Taves is one of the greatest players to be playing right now. I mean, he's got to be in your top 20, top 15, top 20.
Yeah.
But Pat Kane has got to be in your top 5, if not top 10, guaranteed.
Okay, so this team still has 2 forwards that are potentially, debatably, top 15 to 20 in the league. Obviously, Patrick Kane's a top 5 to 10 on anybody's book. I mean,
easily.
He has to be. And, you look at Taves, and, I mean, he's in the mix.
So when you have 2 guys like that, I mean.
And a goalie like Corey Crawford.
You don't have to have hitters everywhere. And they have a solid top 6, but, I mean, not a great bottom 6.
Well, and if you do have an off year like they had last year, dust yourself off, get back up, and have a good year this year.
If Corey Crawford stays, I mean, look, Corey Crawford is he's a professional. He's taking his injury rehabbing seriously. He's going to come back, and hopefully he's fine. You always hope that. So if Corey Crawford's fine, this team's competing for a Stanley Cup. I mean, I don't think that a guy like we're going to bounce around here a little bit, but their defense, Duncan and Keith, Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook, they're older, sure. Duncan Keith is much older. I think he's 34, 35.
Yeah.
But we've seen guys that are underappreciated, that are older, that don't play the kind of game that kids love to watch. Brooks Orpik win Stanley Cups with that leadership. They can bring up those young defenders, show them how to be pros. Like, defenders can play, as far as I'm concerned, till 38 at a high level.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest here,
Especially ones that are used to playing that many minutes, like these two are.
Orpik's 40, and he just won a cup last year. He was a big part of that. Don't think twice about that. He scored a huge goal in the playoffs. Can Duncan Keith not do that anymore?
Right.
It's just...
And Keith and Seabrook are both, I would say, more talented than a guy like Brooks Orpik.
Yes.
And so
and they have two of them.
Right.
And Brent Seabrook, he was benched a little bit last year, but I don't believe that was due to only his play. I don't watch the team enough to know. Maybe his attitude was poor. I have no idea. But what it seems like from our little bit of research that we do, literally 5 minutes of looking up the team, it just seems like goaltending hurt them.
Well, and we watch a lot of these games too.
I mean, I was being self-deprecating there. I mean, I just mean we don't. This is a West Coast team. They play on Central Time. We get to see them a little more often than we get to see the West Coast, the real West Coast teams, the LA, the Vancouver teams.
Well, and plus Chicago's always such a fun team to watch.
Absolutely.
I've always thought they were a blast to watch. I'm a St. Louis Blues fan, and I like watching Chicago, and I get a lot of hate for that, but they're just a fun team to watch. Bottom line, I don't think there's anything to worry about. Yes, their core is aging a little bit. Yes, they had an off season, but a lot of that was due to just the shooting percentage and the goaltending. And I wonder what kind of the correlation with that.
Is that demeanor?
Well, are
Morale.
they just flinging shots at the net when they get behind in a game, and that's causing their shooting percentage to be lower? Like, you got to factor in those kind of things too. So, I mean, it's gonna be interesting. They do have some young kids. DeBrincat looks great.
He looks tremendous. I mean, and they traded away a bunch. This offseason to offload that Hossa contract. But they offloaded the Hossa contract. Let's talk about that. They've got $5.5 million in cap space there.
Frees up a good amount of space for them.
And they said that they're going to hold it till the deadline.
They had to do that. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
And who knows who's going to be available? What if Erik Karlsson stays in Ottawa, and a team like Chicago is looking to rent him? Guess what? They could afford him if they moved. Really, anybody making $1.5 million. Erik Karlsson's who knows where any of that's going to turn. I'm not saying he's going to the Blackhawks, but the thing is they have $5.5 million and they can spend it however they want to. We have to touch on Joel Quenneville. I mean, their coaching is, he's, if not, the argument could be made for one. Bowman, of course, is all-time number one greatest, best record, all the things, but Quenneville's number 2.
Yeah.
He's almost got to be.
It's hard to think of a reason why he shouldn't be number 2.
And so, when you have people are talking about mid-season, are they going to get rid of Quenneville?
People are still talking about if they have another off-season, are they getting rid of Quenneville?
No.
I would have to. I wouldn't.
Listen, is he okay with coaching in Chicago? Okay, great. Keep him there.
Yeah.
As long as he wants to be there, stay there. You know what I mean? Again, I mean, it's just a team that we really believe is going to have a bounce back. And that doesn't seem to be a popular opinion so far.
I think it's just so common if a team has a bad year to start looking for all these weaknesses in their game and what we need to do, what the team should do to, get back into playoff contention, this and that. But sometimes these things just happen. Injuries happen at bad times, and maybe your team's not clicking when they need to, or maybe their shooting percentage is really low. I mean, there's other reasons for these kind of off seasons.
And they didn't miss the playoffs by much. That's the scary part. They didn't miss the playoffs by much. I mean, it wasn't like, when the difference comes, when you break down the games that they lost, I really feel like it was just, I mean, a
lot of those games they could have won.
That's the thing. It's the compete level that maybe wasn't there.
And I think teams know that. I think anytime you're going to play Chicago, these teams know it's always going to be a game. Even if they're close to last in the league, it's always going to be a game because they have so many superstars, great goaltending. I mean, they have what it takes to get back in the playoffs, and I don't know. I'm just gonna say that I think they do.
This is a for sure playoff team, a for sure cup contender. As far as we are concerned, I think I speak for us both. As far as we're concerned, Chicago has a great year ahead of them, provided everyone stays injury free, and young talent's got to step up a little bit. So, with that said, thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great day. All right, everybody. That does it for today's show. One last thank you to Ben Rosette for letting us use his music for our podcast. The full title for the songs used can be found in the description below. Thanks for tuning in, and you'll be hearing from us soon.